first is alternative. There is an alternative to every genre.
There's an
So-
alternative to life.
There's an alternative to life. It's an alternative lifestyle. That's how a lot
Oh,
of
shit.
cults are talked about.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
yeah, really?
Yeah. So this word alternative, it has a connotation to it. I mean, it's to call people used to call Tame Impala alt rock, and I could never really associate it to
Yeah.
associate to that.
I'm just making notes while you.
Cool.
Hmm.
What is alt rock?
I have no clue.
Great.
But why is it alt? Like, if you put the word alt there, it means you have a very specific
Let me ask you
definition
a
to the
question
first
back.
word.
Let me ask you a question back. If it really mattered what genre it is, would you stop listening to it?
Definitely not.
Then
But it's an interesting
a
thing to
debate
talk about.
ends here. Fair enough.
And things like pop. So pop is fairly interesting to me because pop changes. Because pop, nothing starts as pop. A genre is taken up by the popular culture and it becomes pop music. So at some point, probably folk music, by that definition, would be pop music because that was the music of the popular culture band then, I guess. No?
Yeah, I guess popular refers to what the mass of the people in the world are tripping on. I guess. Does that make sense?
It does.
He's making notes.
He's making notes. What are you noting?
No, I'm just thinking of this question about alternative. I'm just thinking of when I first encountered the term. The thing is, I didn't know what alternative was an alternative to. In the sense, I didn't know enough about other genres to know that there needed to be an alternative, right? But what I do remember is that I remember bands like Hootie and the Blowfish and Crash Test Dummies. I remember a lot of Irish bands.
So these are alternative?
Those are the bands that I associate with, and this is around the year, I'm talking about between 1987 and 1993.
I wouldn't call
Right.
Hootie and the Blowfish alt. Definitely not. Like,
What would you
I
call
wouldn't.
it?
I mean, I wouldn't either. But that's the point. Is not that. But is like when they were presented to us, either through MTV or whatever it is, or Rock Street Journal, or even Rolling Stone for that matter. Hootie and the Blowfish, Crash Test Dummies, Alanis Morissette, the Cranberries. There's a band that sings Two Princes. I can't remember who they are.
that's the band.
No.
No, the band is Two Princes. The song is
No.
Two Princes. Kryptonite is the song.
No.
Two.
Then
I
there's
forgot, I
Two
forget.
Princes by Spin Doctors.
Spin Doctors.
Spin Doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good song.
And then actually, yeah, funnily enough, even when RHCP came out, okay, there's Black Crows. RHCP I remember listening to first in 1991. So then there was this other band that sang Runaway Train. I can't remember who they were.
Wait, RHCP was an alternative too?
Yeah, they were presented under that channel.
They were.
Then, funnily enough, U2, Dave Matthews Band, okay, Black Crows, who according to me would be a blues rock band actually, So there were all these bands that came sort of thrown at me as being an alternative band. The only common factor I could get from them was that there was, I think that what these guys did in common was that all of them rejected the glamour of the big rock acts. That's what I could, but it was a visual difference. In terms of music, every band is different in any case, and if your ears are sensitive, then even two similar sounding bands are worlds apart, right? So the main thing that I could tell that these guys were doing different from bands such as bands just like the glam rock guys, or even the 80s bands, or the disco chaps and all that, was that they were just treating the world of entertainment very differently. They were a lot closer to the lives that you and I lived, street talk kind of stuff, things like that. That's what I felt. Yeah.
How do you differentiate between experimental and alternative?
I hate the term experimental, man.
But if you were to?
I wouldn't actually, in the sense that I don't think that there's a need to differentiate really.
In a way that they're too abstract to differentiate, or it's just that they're too similar to differentiate?
It's like asking, you know, how to differentiate between, let's say, a bus and a potato. You know?
Fair. I'll rephrase my question. So,
Sarah laughed from the back over there.
in both cases of alternative and experimental, people expect something different from whatever the mainstream is.
Who? The bands, the players?
Uh, right now, I was referring to a listener, maybe. Yeah.
We know
Instead
what
of
the
a
listener
player.
expects.
If I hear the word experimental or alternative, if
See,
a
the
listener
thing is, the
told-
moment you say people expect, okay, I'll challenge you on that. In the sense that if you can tell me how many million people you've spoken to, that will justify you saying people expect me. Let's say I'm an alternative artist. People expect me to do this, or I'm an experimental artist and people expect me to. How many million people expect me to do it? Is it you and your family, or is it like, you know?
Actually, instead of him
So-
answering, I can answer this.
Yeah, go for
question.
it.
Because, for example, like a band has released an album,
Yeah.
right? And that album is, let's call it rock, right? Because
Hmm.
we're focusing on rock-ish, I guess. And so the listeners are just like, this is amazing. But
Yeah.
then they're like releasing a new album.
Yeah.
And they release it and people were expecting rock, but they got R&B. Then they're gonna be like, the hell?
I would say that would enter into the thing of style.
Right.
Yeah.
That's with us. But I
Yeah.
think what he's talking about is this kind of expectation, right? Or that's the type of expectation I would see from people. If it's a new band, then maybe not.
I don't know. I'd still challenge both of you on it. If you can prove to me that there's these many people expecting this particular kind of music, and they even know that, okay, this equals experimentation or experimental.
Okay, so like,
Because if I'm expecting a new album from Tool.
all right. I'm gonna hit you up with one of
No.
these. I'm gonna look at the number of followers that Steven Wilson has on Instagram.
Yeah.
Let's just say that is his. Let's say that's the number of followers he has. He has 139K followers.
Yeah.
All right. Let's just say that's half of what his listeners are. Fair enough. Because some of them, many of them won't, because he's an old artist also.
Yeah.
So his first 3 albums are considered by people
Yeah.
progressive,
Yeah.
right? And then
progressive.
But I mean,
Yeah.
first sort this out amongst yourselves.
No, I'm just.
Like,
I'm,
he's
I'm
considered
going to the
progressive
word.
rock. He's
I'm
considered
going to the
progressive
word.
rock.
I'm going to the abstract of this word as well.
we'll
What
come
the
to
hell is
that
progressive?
aspect of. He's considered progressive rock according to his first 3 albums by many people. Then he released an album which is way more what you call pop rock in nature, right? So now people are saying he's becoming progressive pop, whatever that means.
Are they saying it after he released the album?
After he released the album, but then
And
how
my
the
question
people were
is
like,
before. My
But how
point
do they know
is
what he's
bef-
releasing
That's my
before?
point. That is my point.
But
That is my challenge.
So no, the expectation is that they were like, okay, he's gonna release another amazing
but how do we know
progressive
what
rock
their
album.
expectation is?
Because when they release it, people commented saying
That's after
this
the release.
album sucks.
After the release, I want to know, how do we know before the release that this is what they're expecting?
From whatever the release
from
before
experience,
that.
from personal experience.
No. Okay. How many million people have you spoken to?
No, from personal experience. I mean, you. Okay, not you specifically, but imagine if
I
you're
don't
in
buy it.
Tanmay's shoes.
No,
Okay.
I don't.
Oh come on! If you're in Tanmay's shoes and your favorite band is a R&B band, right? And they're releasing a new album, and you've really loved the first 2 albums because it was really R&B, and you're like, shit! I really hope that this album is as good as those 2. You're hoping to get a sound like those 2, right?
Yeah.
You're hoping to get a sound like those 2. So your expectations are that there's going to be
That's
similar
one
to those.
person.
So you're gonna apply. That's how
no,
empathy works, man.
No.
Come on, you apply your
You don't
personal experience with
market-
everybody's
No,
experience.
you don't market or sell on empathy.
Okay,
Oh, come on.
I'll,
No,
I'll
no.
rephrase my question again. So alternative, experimental, and now I'm going to throw in progressive. These are 3 abstract way of defining genre. They're fairly abstract. You don't know. Even by sound, by rock, you know there's a gained up guitar there, at least. But in these 3 cases, they talk about something abstract: progressive, alternative, and experimental.
Yeah.
Are the kind of abstract they're talking about different? Experimental, alternative, and progressive.
Are the kind of abstract that
Yeah, I mean,
different.
it's slightly different sort of an abstract would be called progressive music, and if it's slightly different, then I mean, how do you? Is it like just there and people don't think about it, and stupid to call them alternative, progressive, and experimental altogether? Or is there actually a difference in sound between the three of these?
I think it's a bunch of men wearing skirts playing Ring a Ring of Roses, man.
Whoa.
That's what it is, really. And three of them, precisely. You know?
Okay, I'm gonna
Okay,
give a
and
nicer
it goes
question
like this:
now.
A, P, and E. Okay, Mr. Alternative, Mr. Progressive, Mr. Experimental. Just
What are some interesting genres you have listened to and you feel that people neglect a lot?
none,
None?
none,
Genres.
none. I don't interact with genres at all. I like there are lots of bands that would, for example, I've heard like at least 5 or 6 bands that if I were forced to, through him, in his car, right? If I were forced to, I would put them into a genre, right? But I don't interact with that genre. I interact with that band, and I'm really keen on how that band is different from something that I've heard also in his car. And you know, there have been times when I've mixed them up or something like that, but I'm not interested in the genre. So it's of no value to me.
Yeah, I mean that he's saying this. I mean he's saying it for both of us. It's when you, if you enjoy the music, who cares, man? What they're playing, what they're not playing.
Okay, I'll give you guys a better question.
I think, I mean,
play
well,
along.
there are certain things that you generally sort of maybe don't consume as much. Um, I don't always listen to, you know, rabid electronic music as much. I don't listen to extremely loud heavy metal too frequently. But at the same time, you know, there are times in the day when I like a, you know, I like a loud hard song and stuff like that. So um, yeah, I think maybe we can't afford to be too, we can't afford to be too boxed in.
We shouldn't be too boxed in fact. Why afford to be like? We shouldn't.
Otherwise, look, we're not going to be experimental, right?
Otherwise, you end up with complacency also.
We're not going to be progressive,
We're not going to be experimental.
and we won't have an alternative to anything.
Mm,